When I was a kid, I had an incredible imagination. And guess what? I still do. But I think the way I grew up, being 9 years between me and my next sibling, and my mom passed away when I was 6, and my dad was busy with the new business. And so I was alone a lot. That's really the picture I'm trying to paint. And I loved animals. I had tons of stuffed animals. I had like little rubber animals and plastic animals, and I'd just be all over the place, just having fun with my little animals and playing all these little stories and drawing cartoons. And I'd be out in the yard, I'd be in my room, somewhere in the house. I was always doing something creative with my imagination. And when I was about 9 or 10 years old, we moved to a pleasure farm, and it was in rural Pennsylvania. So there was creeks and big old trees and woods, and we had a pond, and we had a little barn where we had some animals. We had some cows and some sheep and some crazy geese that used to chase me around. And I would love spending times when the weather was accommodating, obviously. Even in the wintertime, I'd be out there running around like a nut. And I'd build tree forts, I'd climb trees. I grew up with a Labrador Retriever, and that dog, her name was Tilly. And that dog and I would go on adventures all the time. We'd get home like right after dark in the summer, and we'd be running around, and they knew after a while that, yeah, she's just outside somewhere climbing a tree or doing something dumb. But I loved being creative and having an imagination. And I enjoyed just being me. And I had to be creative. I had to come up with all these things because I don't want to make it sound like I had no friends, because I did, but honestly, I had more fun with my dog just running around doing my own thing than I did with any friends back then. But what that showed me is that I had a vivid and very creative imagination. And that kind of led to me doing like doodling cartoons. And I remember writing this animal diary where I had all these little characters drawn, and I gave them all names like Freddie the Frog with a reinforced crotch. I had the funniest little sayings about them, and my sister-in-law, Debbie, would just crack up. She just loved to encourage me to be creative. And she was one of the few people who actually sat down and took the time to actually interact with me and my family. Everybody else was either away or busy doing business stuff. And when I think back of my energy, my mental energy that I had when I was a kid, it was just remarkable. And thank goodness I still have that creativity today. I think it's just inherent in my personality. So what I want to talk to you about today is grabbing that childhood imagination that you had back when you were little and you didn't care about anything but just what you were doing in the moment, and how freeing that was. You knew you were safe, secure for the most part. You had your family. You're a kid. You're just doing kid stuff, right? And I want you to go back and remember what that was like. Remember how exciting that was and how you didn't have the stresses and worries that we all do as adults. And remember how that used to occur. A lot of it was knee-jerk, wasn't it? It was just like, hey, I'm going to think about this, or I'm going to go do this. And you're a kid and you're doing, and you go and do it. And so how I want to work you through this episode is to re-engage your visualization, your imagination, those skills, which is easy as just thinking about stuff, but doing it from a deliberate standpoint, because you can really powerfully leverage your ability to visualize, to imagine, to create in your mind first, because it kind of shows the brain that it's possible, right? And then you can move forward and have much more courage and excitement as you move into your business and the project or whatever it is you're doing. So that's what I talk about in this episode. The most important, I'm going to re-emphasize this throughout the whole show. When you do it deliberately, intentionally, with thinking, okay, I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to have some fun and just visualize, what would this client engagement look like? What would this new product that I want to put together look like? What would happen if, so on and so forth. And it can be a really fun way to create your business along the way. So I hope you enjoy the episode and do some intentional visualization and see what happens. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. Do you ever visualize a project or a business before you start it? Of course you do. Now, the inception of it may be a way for you to solve a problem. But at the end of the day, you're visualizing throughout the whole process, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. So in this episode, I want to give you some suggestions on using visualization as a deliberate tool, and also how you can use AI to help really suss out a lot of different scenarios. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to love it. So this is where I want to start. Let's say your project is you're starting a business. Let's just go big, right? Go big or go home. And why you're starting a business could be multiple reasons. You could have been laid off a job. You could have, finished school and you wanted to go back and get your master's degree, and now you're going to be a consultant. You have had a lifelong dream of building a business that gave back to the environment or was something green, or you were looking to maybe do something with a craft or a hobby. I mean, there's a million different ways you could obviously choose to start a business. Now, as you're coming up with your marketing strategy and your positioning and all that stuff, which it's like, I think that we primarily focus on the pragmatic side of a business versus the heart-centered and the excitement around the act of having your own business, which is completely understandable because obviously if you're going to be competing in business and creating business, you have to work, you have to build a platform, you have to find clients, you have to do all that stuff, and it becomes very practical, very tactical. But there's elements to having a business that's successful and fulfilling that visualization can really help you with. Now, you may be thinking, oh, Terry, I'm not a visualizing kind of person. I don't really get mind pictures. Well, if you dream, if you think about things, you can visualize. It's really easy. Essentially, visualization is really about stopping for a moment and thinking about something and mentally picturing yourself in that situation. That's it. I mean, it doesn't really require a lot of preparation or anything. And most of us are visualizing by default. And most of us also visualize kind of the wrong things. And let me explain what I mean by that. I'm a big believer in you get what you think about. So if you're thinking about something you're worried about, like an illness or losing business or having financial troubles or ending a relationship, whatever the thing is, if you're thinking about that and your energy is spent a lot of time thinking about that, the likelihood that you're going to draw it to you through that energy of attention is very high. Now, conversely, if you're doing the same thing, the same action of giving thought to something, giving energy to it, you're going to attract that. So why wouldn't you deliberately want to think about things you want? Well, it's called being a human being, and we have a natural proclivity to get our minds hooked on something that we're worried about or that we're stressed about or that we're fearful of. And because our brain is trying to solve how to survive if any of those scenarios happens, that's why we end up giving attention to it. Okay, now I know that's probably a little too esoteric for you, or maybe not. Maybe I'm like speaking your jam, if you know what I mean. And this is something I have learned in my many years of self-improvement and personal growth and all those things, and owning a business for 20 years. And so how I want to work this episode is it's like one big prompt, okay? And it's a two-parter, right? The first part is going to be, here's how you can visualize. I just kind of prefaced it with explaining, what are you giving your attention to? The first thing is like, what are you giving your attention to? So if you're planning on launching a business, or you've just started and now you're freaking out because you don't have any clients, you may have a website and a logo and, kind of have sort of a focused strategy. And if you worked with me, you would definitely have a good strategy and you'd be rocking and rolling. Sorry, just had to put that little advertorial in there. But if you're kind of trying to still figure that out, visualization is a great tool you can use to kind of close that gap and get you feeling better and moving in the right actions, getting those inspired actions so you can actually start doing things that will satisfy a lot of those worries and turn them into some really good things happening for your business. Let's go into using AI for doing this visualization. Where it's going to help you is, let's take, and I'm just kind of off the cuffing this right now. So if it was me and I wanted to start doing something like a new aspect of my business, I'm very happy with everything in my business right now, so it would have to be something new. And I was like, okay, so what is this new thing? I'd get into ChatGPT or some of the other applications. It's my favorite. It's the one I'm using right now for many reasons. But there's Grok. Grok is really good too. It's a little more focused on trends because it feeds off of X. But a lot of them you can use in complement with one another. And there are so many. Oh my gosh. And probably about 2 months from now, there'll be 100 more applications you could use. Go in and just start having a conversation with AI where you're saying, okay, here's my situation. For me, I'd go in and I'm like, all right, I'm thinking about starting a new aspect of my business. Here's my audience. Here is what I'm doing now. And this is what I'd like to add. And I would ask ChatGPT, what are some of the common problems that this audience has that I could address with my new service? And it will give you tons of answers. Then what you do is you go through the process of clarifying, getting more detail by having this back and forth little tennis match with your AI application. What that's going to do is that's going to give some situations, scenarios, problems that this audience is having. And that's where you can take any one of those and in your mind, or you could do some journaling around it, right? Just write a story like, this is what would happen if somebody was having problems in this particular area. This is what I would do. This is how I would talk to them. Go ahead and in your mind, you do that visualization of helping them solve that problem. As you go through this process, by the way, you can also ask ChatGPT, how can you help me use AI to visualize different scenarios? The thing that I love about AI is you can come right out and ask it the dumbest questions. How do I fill in the blank? And it will give you a litany of things you can do. And then you continue to riff back and forth and clarify what you're looking for. As you're going through this visualization process in all these different scenarios of your business or the project you're trying to start, you need to give yourself time to sit with the emotion of it. You're going to have different types of feelings that come up when you're doing this visualization. And do it when it's most comfortable for you, when you're out on a walk, when you're just waking up or just going to sleep, when you just have a moment to yourself. In a car, you're driving along and you're just thinking about these things, right? We all do it by default, as I mentioned. But notice the emotions that are going on when you do this visualization. I will give you a little trick. If your emotions are positive, you start getting excited, you're like, wow, that'd be so amazing if that worked out that way, then you're on the right track. Keep going, keep doing that. And never force yourself to create an outcome. Just kind of let it flow, because there are all sorts of energies around us that are inspiring us and wanting us to succeed. And I know I tap into mine all the time, my gut instinct. You've got a gut instinct. I know you do. You just start listening to that inner voice, and then you hear what's there, and you just really sit with it and savor it. Now, if you're doing a visualization and you're like, oh, it'd be great if this happened, but then what if that happened? all of a sudden you hear the back door slam, oh, that's probably not a good thing. And then if that happens, then I'm going to have to deal with this. And then if that happens, oh my gosh, then all of a sudden you're not feeling so hot, right? So it's easy to fall in those trap doors when you don't really consciously and deliberately focus your attention when you're doing a visualization. So there's this fine line between kind of going with this creative storytelling in your head about like, wouldn't it be great if, and this is going to be so cool when I get to do this, and oh, I just met a new client and then they had a problem that I knew I could solve and we started working together and it was really awesome and I just loved it and they really helped me see some cool things that now I'm going to be able to bring that to my clients that I have in my business. And I love the challenge that they're giving me and helping me grow. I mean, it just cascades on and on and on. And you're feeling good and you're enjoying it. There's no harm in it. There's nothing in that inner conversation that you have in your mind's eye when you're visualizing that you have to adhere to. It's not really designed to create an outcome per se. It's like, okay, since I visualized about this, I'm going to have to go do it. No, that's not really designed to work that way. The way it's meant to work is so it inspires you to new ideas. It helps you focus on things that you enjoy. When you have your own business, you have total control over everything you're doing in your business. You may not have total control of your audience's behavior or the marketplace or the economy or politics or regulations or whatever, but what you do have is total control over how you interact with all of that. So if you're visualizing and your mindset is in a real positive place and you're eagerly leaning in and looking forward to things versus a desperate energy around, oh my God, I need to make money. I don't have enough clients. My pipeline's drying up. And that becomes your visualization. Well, it's only going to get worse the more attention you give to it. Try to use visualization in your daily practice, even as you're just doing some work and stuff. Just stop for a minute in front of your computer and just close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, and just think about what you're doing. Think about the work and the benefit that you're creating for your clients and what you really envision for your business, what you want it to become, how you want to help people. It's really a powerful way to function in every day, and you will train your brain and your pattern of thinking to be more positive. Now, here's the deal. Stuff happens in business. You could be working with a prospect and you've had like 2 or 3 consult calls with them. You know for sure they're going to reach out and hire you to do a big project, or you've been bidding on a big project and you know it's like, oh, I'm a shoo-in, it's going to happen. And then it doesn't. Don't let that derail you. Obviously, whatever the thing is that happens is moving you forward on the path that you're on, whether you like it or not. Some of my most uncomfortable experiences, kind of like really disappointing experiences, have led me to much, much better situations. I've had, I have to laugh. I'm sure if you're a consultant, you understand and you deal with clients. Sometimes clients are a little bit challenging, and I'll get on a prospect call and I'll talk to somebody, and I really trust my gut when I meet somebody for the first time. And I always want to help. I have this natural nurturer in me. I always speak in the future, and I just have this ability to cast forward a very positive outcome for anybody I talk to. Like, everything's going to work out. This will be easy. You're going to have a blast. There's so much potential on the other side. Let me help you get there. That's infused in all of my conversations. But sometimes, this is what I mean about you can't always control the outside world. Sometimes I get a prospect who on the surface sounds like, and I know I could help them, and they're saying, yes, I need this help. I need, this improvement in my marketing or my communications. And throughout the conversation, there's this energy of resistance that I experience, or this energy of difficulty. Like they may become a little argumentative, or they may just not believe that they can achieve success that easy. And I find that when I have a conversation with a client and I kind of am picking up on that vibe, I'm like, as much as I know I could help this person, as much as I know that what they're struggling with is just a bunch of blind spots, I know that where they're at right now, they're not ready for me. And I don't want to come across as sounding arrogant when I say that. What I mean is they're not ready from the standpoint of like starting their own business or taking it in a different direction or a new direction or a better direction. And it's that fear that makes them a little bit nervous, makes them kind of a little prejudgmental on what could be. And so with that barrier in mind, I'm not able to really connect with them on a level where I can help them. Very often I kind of have to say, well, I don't know that we're a fit, or something very much politer than that. And just tell them, well, when you're ready, I'd love to work with you. And some of them I don't really say that because I know that they would probably be a nightmare to work with from the standpoint of high maintenance and needing a lot of reassurance and hand-holding. I think that it's important that when you do more visualization about meeting prospects, getting business, growing your pipeline, if you're trusting your gut, if you're trusting in your ability to have a conversation with a prospect or to prepare a proposal that you feel really good about and that you know is what that company or that person needs, then go ahead forward with it and stick to your guns. Because the second you start backpedaling, negotiating, trying to explain why you have everything in your proposal the way you do, then you're really losing the opportunity to make a real difference. And sometimes business is just not a fit. And so knowing that's just part of business and moving forward is going to be really healthy and really successful for you. Visualization can help a ton with that. So for the prompt, which I already kind of kicked you off on, I just want to conclude by saying use visualization deliberately, okay? Make sure that what you're thinking about creates a positive emotion, gets you excited, makes you want to think more about that or write more about it. Because whether or not it comes to be is irrelevant. It's about who you are in your thinking, because it will start to do two things. One, it'll help you carve out positive beliefs. It'll reinforce those things, but it'll also help you identify beliefs that are holding you back. And if you come across those beliefs that are holding you back, it gives you that much more opportunity to address them, because all a belief is a pattern of thought. It's just something you agree with over and over and over. And that belief can be something that's positive and healthy for you, or it can be something that's maybe not so healthy for you, that's driven by fear or a past experience that made you reinforce this is the way the world is. Well, maybe it's time to tell a new story about that. So notice your belief patterns, notice where you get hung up, and make this a regular practice. But above all, do it. Pay attention to how you feel, what your takeaways are, and you'll know if you're doing it to your positive success, if you feel good when you do it. So I know that was kind of a funky little episode there, but there's so many different ways you can use AI, and this is a great example of how you can do that and bring more value to your audience, your clients and customers, and just enjoy your business and the project you're working on that much more. Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt. If this episode had a prompt, and you get that homework done because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one.